What's up, everybody? Welcome to this live stream that I am doing today with a dear brother based in Spain. His name is Brian Jenkins, and relationships and how to show up authentically inside your partnerships. Brian has there he is, joining us right now. We're on Instagram, and if you are listening to us live, feel free to post some comments inside the chat and ask any questions of myself or Brian regarding relationships. And if you're listening to this on the replay, you will have the opportunity to get more details in the show notes. Let's see if I can bring Brian on here. Accept. Hello, Shannon. Thank you for joining us. This should be coming in live. Brian Jenkins is unable to join. Try again. Still not.
Don't,
there we go.
don't believe the lies. Brian Jenkins is here.
What's up, brother? Nice to see you, man.
Yeah, you as well. I'm glad we made this connection happen across the world.
Yeah. Greetings from Guatemala. What's news in Spain? How things going?
Oh, wow. I didn't recognize you're in Guatemala. Yeah, I'm here in the Canary Islands on the coast of Morocco. So right now it's a beautiful, probably about 28 degrees, breezy, sunny, and good vibes.
Is there kite surfing there?
On this particular island, it's not as popular as a neighboring island called Fuerteventura. That's where they do like the kite surfing championships.
Wow.
But they do a little bit here. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, brother, thank you so much for making the time to hang out today. I'm excited to spend some time chatting to you and yeah, dropping in on all things relationships. Maybe you can start with a little bit of an introduction about who you are, what you're focusing on in your life at the moment, and perhaps a little bit of your story specifically around relationships.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, you asked for a lot there. Let me see if I can contain myself. I love to talk, especially about myself. So as Gareth mentioned, my specialty is around relationships, specifically with committed couples and singles who are wanting to be in a more intentional partnership. And really this work was inspired by my own journey of relationships, a lot of self-sabotage, a lot of limiting beliefs around who I thought I could be as a boyfriend, as a partner, and now as a husband. Just celebrated 5 years ago, me and my wife.
Wow.
We've been together for about 9 years. And in that process of journeying through, relationships since I've been 15 years old, I'm just turned 40. It's been a tumultuous one, a lot where I've made some decisions I haven't been proud of. I broke hearts, caused a lot of tears. And that story that I told myself about the man who caused those tears was, I must be an asshole. I must not be, meant for love. I don't know if I know how to love. I feel bad for the next woman who's going to accept me because this is just the thoughts I had in my mind. And so, going through that process and recognizing that I was literally setting myself up for failure before I even got into partnership is what set me on a trajectory to really undo that negative self-talk and abuse, and then led me to now guiding others as well.
Wow. Yeah, I resonate so much with that. It's like my reframe around that has been recognizing the parts of myself in the past that have not been so connected with myself and have caused harm in some of the partnerships that I've been in. There's a part of me that feels some shame as I've grown and progressed and look back on those versions of myself, and I've been like, wow, I can't believe I was the guy that did that. Mine was around radical honesty, like not always being completely truthful about maybe my desires or setting boundaries or something like that. But now I recognize, and my reframe has really been recognizing that that's really the hero of my journey. That's the version of me that was getting me to a place to wake up and to be able to make different choices. But I still go back to that place of recognizing some of the choices that I've made and some of the people that I've hurt in my past. It's hard to do. How do you forgive yourself for that? What's your process for reconnecting with that version of you?
Mm. Man, how do I forgive myself? Right here, I'm gonna get a bit choked up because it's still alive. And you know, there's a lot of work that I've done to forgive myself, and I recognize that that was the number one thing I had to do. You know, like I literally had to do it. There's not too many things in my life that I say I have to do, but that was for one I had to do to allow myself to be in partnership with other people. Because I was carrying so much guilt and shame into these relationships, and that guilt and shame was greatly influencing how I was showing up, you know. So my process was going back and recognizing my intentions, right? And in most cases, when I did cause damage, broken hearts, maybe I did live up to my word, maybe I made a decision that I thought was going to be the best intended for the other person, and really I was thinking about myself. If I really go back to there's nothing that I did, I set out to say, I'm going to ruin her life. Not one moment did I ever have that thought in my mind. It's based on my patterns, the way I saw my parents live their marriage, what I saw on TV, my own fears, all that influenced how I showed up. But not one time did I wake up and I was like dead set, I'm going to screw her over. And so once I recognized that it was not my intention at all, albeit I'm taking responsibility for how I showed up, it was not my intention. It allowed me to go through that healing process and just forgive myself and recognize that I'm an imperfect human doing the best damn job I can, which comes back around to what we talked about today. Actually, the title we put in is the art of fucking up our relationships, you know? So I'll just leave it there for a moment. I'd love to hear how you move through, because it sounds very alive to you as well.
Yeah, it's a big one for me. And I think I haven't actually framed it or looked at it exactly the same way that you're talking about it, but that's also true for me. Like at no point would I ever be like, I'm gonna try and upset this person, or I'm trying to break their heart. It was wrapped up. My journey has really been around this inner polite boy. I have this inner polite person that is really, it was a sort of a behavior that was really celebrated when I was a kid. And it was a superpower in some ways. As I was polite and I was making sure that other people were happy, I got my needs met. I was, I was loved by my parents, etc. It got me connected with women. But then the shadowy part of that is too much politeness and wanting to protect other people that showed up as like not being able to be completely honest. And I would say to myself, well, I can feel this woman wants more from this connection than I do. I don't want to hurt her. So I'm going to maybe not have the difficult conversation, or maybe not be completely honest about where I feel these specific things. But I feel the same part, which is like I never really did it to hurt somebody. But as I looked and have grown and developed and recognized that actually the kindest thing you can do to somebody is be completely honest in all times about how you feel, about what your desires are, about when those things change, about when you can feel like a mismatch between what I want and what it is that the other person wants.
Right, yeah.
That's really the work to be able to be in that place. And so, yeah, I think it's really been that for me, just recognizing what those moments are and just accepting and loving. And then, if there's actual work to be done, whether it's in person, like going back to somebody and saying, hey, I remember I did this and I'm really sorry. Actually doing that, or you can do that energetically as well by just writing letters to people from the past and just freeing them and saying sorry and asking for forgiveness. That's really been my work to do.
Yeah. In that last piece, I just really feel compelled to share that, because I know I have a couple male clients in particular who share exactly what you said, which is the part of, what about when you can't get in contact and ask for forgiveness from that person? Like, what if it's not an option, And I see a lot of people getting hung up on that. And I know I was one of those people as well, where for probably about a good 5 years after one of my previous partners, story doesn't matter, I felt a lot of guilt and shame around that, and I wanted to make it right. Well, she rightfully so cut me off. She put a very thick line and barrier between myself and her to protect herself, because I wasn't respecting her boundaries, And so a in-person, or even a phone call wasn't a possibility for me. And I carried that with me for a long time. And exactly what you said, I did very similar practices with having those energetic connections, those releases for myself and for her as well. Like, I have no idea how she's moving through life, and I'm really not so concerned about it. It's just also about just freeing myself energetically, so I can now be at that time, with future partners, and then now my wife. But the power in doing that without needing to do it, because even if I speak to her, let's say I have the opportunity, there's no guarantee she's going to say, Oh my gosh, Brian, thank you so much for your apology. I felt it down to my core of my soul. I forgive you. I free you. I forget everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we want to get, but may not be the possibility. She may light you up again and say, thank you. I hear you, but you're still an asshole. You did this. My life's ruined because of you. And then what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
What do? You stay a prisoner to your emotions until,
Mm-hmm.
so I love the practice of writing that letter and just energetically cutting those ties.
Mm-hmm. For those of you that are watching live, if you've got any questions for Brian around authentic relating, how to show up in partnership, how to keep the fire alive, how to process any of your exes, feel free to put it in the comments and we'll get to those towards the end. I want to share, or maybe ask you rather, the art of fucking up your relationship is a theme that you have, and I'd like you to unpack that. I'm just going to leave it with you to roll with what that actually means, because it at some level doesn't sound like the type of thing that we want to be doing, right?
Yeah, and I get that. And to be fair, like it's actually that theme, motto, mantra actually was birthed out of one of my coaching sessions with a couple, and I recognized, as I was guiding them through it, oh wow, how applicable this can be for me. And so essentially, the art of fucking up is recognizing that the expectations that we put on ourselves individually, and then the expectation we put on ourselves in partnership, how we want to show up as a husband, a boyfriend, a lover, a provider, all these things. And the same thing for the woman as well. We have all these expectations of what this is going to look like. I'm going to be this romantic guy, and I'm always going to be solid. I'm going to be grounded with my emotions. I'm going to be able to hold the container in space for her when she's throwing the daggers and fire at me. And I'm going to be rock solid. And I'm going to be this Romeo, right? This shiny knight. Well, for me, it hasn't always turned out that way, right? To me, as we're talking about, there's been moments where I didn't live up to my expectation. There's been times where I totally lost track of it. Little kid came crying, kicking and screaming. He took over the show, and things happen as they do. So when I'm talking to myself and then into couples, is to recognize that with our best expectation, intention of showing up to this amazing lover, we're going to mess it up based on our expectations, and that's okay. It is completely okay. And this is also part of what I didn't connect this phrase with my healing journey, but part of my healing journey is recognizing that I didn't do anything intentionally to hurt someone. It just happened that way. It's part of my growth, and I trust that part of the way I showed up aided this previous partner on her growth. I may not see it, I don't need to see it. So if we can come into partnership and have these open dialogues about what our fears are, what our insecurities are, what our Achilles heel is, what our dreams are, what our passions are, and understand that we may not be able to unravel this exactly the way we choose to, that it will get messy. It's not a question of if, it will get messy. You will step on each other's toes, you will piss each other off, you will break each other down without trying. So if you can accept that you're gonna fuck this up with all your heart in it, it at least for me takes some pressure off of that perfectionism to be this ultimate guy. Like I don't lose sight of what that vision is, but just recognize that some days I'm not gonna be able to meet it, and that's also okay. Did I do the best I could in that moment? And if the answer is yes, cool. If it's no, I get to have a hard, honest, radical conversation with myself about why I didn't step up.
Yeah, the part for me, I think, which is interesting, it's that. Those triggers and those fuck ups, a lot of them only start to come with a relationship that goes deep. Meaning, you often don't have these in the shallow connections. In the early stages, we're showing the best versions of ourselves. We haven't got a lot of momentum. Perhaps we haven't been on deep journeys with regards to financial stuff, living together stuff, raising kids together stuff, looking at money stuff, and so you start out in the early phases of a relationship, and new relationship energy is so easy. It's like, oh, fuck, you're amazing, and I'm amazing, and we're amazing together, and it's all smooth. But then,
everyone should be like us.
Yeah, look at me. I'm going to show you how to be in a relationship. And then you get to 2 years, and suddenly you're like, what the fuck is going on? All your triggers around money come up. The person that you thought you could hold yourself in, suddenly you can't. That version of you that's like, I'm going to be this person that's so solid, and I'm just going to be super grounded in every moment. And suddenly this person is like, wow, fucking throwing daggers at you, and you're like, fuck you, I'm going to throw these things back. And you're like, whoa, this is not what I signed up for. But I think it's the depth that comes from being in a transformational containership that really allows those things to percolate and pop up. And
Yes.
I've moved a little bit in the last few years inside like people that are inside polyamorous or open relating containers, and there's a lot of stuff that comes up inside those containers. But I've also seen a few people, and my partner's actually shared this with me, that she never really allowed herself to go deep with one person because she had the opportunity to stay with different people at sort of shallow levels. As soon as it became my triggers come up, I'm going to be like, listen, I'm going to take a break from this and I'm going to go to see my other lover and things cool down a bit. But you never really get the chance to go deep. And that's the challenge and the beauty of being in a transformational container where you commit to one person and say, I'm fucking here no matter what. And know that the longer that you're in, the more it's going to feel fucked up.
Yeah. Brad, I love the way you unpack that, because to me, in that, like that transformation of going through, essentially, it's going to feel like a war sometimes, you know. A couple of weeks ago, like my wife and I, we were in it. Like I think for the both of us, I'll share from my experience, it was one of the hardest weeks I've had in our 9 years together. I mean, all kinds of like, you know, deaths and rebirths were happening at the same time. I'm like throwing the towel. This is it. I'm done. This is insane. Then I'm crying. I'm saying, yeah, well, you didn't really step it up. And so, but in committing, like really committing to someone else and really committing to your process and their process, it's going to get messy. But that's where like the rich, fertile soil is, right? Like, and I think, I don't think there's a moral obligation for every partnership to come into a relationship with that kind of depth. I don't. I think it would be amazing if we did, but I don't think it's necessary. I think coming together and you both being as honest as possible about what it is that you're looking for and what you want can save a lot of that struggle or this tension that's there. You both just say, hey, you know what? We're at this phase of our lives and our journeys. We don't want to go heal our ancestral wounds. We're not here to clean the path of like my father and my grandfather. Like, we're just actually here to coast. If that's your prerogative, then go in there together and coast. What tends to happen is like there's this mashup of expectations, of journeys, and what I'm here to do, what you're here to do, and we're not bringing it together like from a consensus standpoint. To be honest, like that's where it gets messy. But you know, even the path of like of messing this up, you know, I'd say that like with play, and also to help to prepare the couples for what's going to come. I don't want to avoid things. Like, I'm not that coach. I'm the coach. I will sniff out the stuff that you guys have been hiding, and we're going to sit each other in the room, and we're going to hammer it out, right? In so much a loving way, and we're going to be tensed. We're going to be triggered, and we're going to sit with it, and we're going to grow through it, right? There's other, you know, paths out there. That doesn't be this path. There's other paths out there which a bit more surface, and they kind of heal, and they work on conversational techniques, and that's fine. Like, this is not the only path. But I do believe that it's calling in for me the couples who want to get into that transformational work for themselves, understanding that the partner they're with is going to help them transform, right? And it's going to hurt sometimes, but it comes with the package, you know?
Are you saying that there's a path that you can choose where you choose not to go deep, meaning you stay in partnership, you keep it at a specific level, and you choose not to go and do the work? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't necessarily recommend it. It's not my truth, but I do believe, you know, there's people who aren't ready for that work, and that may not be their path in their relationship. Their path may be somewhere else, you know, with their kids or with their profession.
Yes.
But I think as long as you're on the same page, you can choose that. Yeah, for sure.
But don't you think that choice inevitably has this underlying volcano of stuff that after a certain amount of time, that stuff's going to bubble up no matter what? It's like you can choose to go have a surface level connection, but if you continually having an argument about the same stuff, there's something underlying that at some point is going to either be a really uncomfortable or difficult shallow connection, or you need to look at the stuff.
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think if there's honesty around where you are and what you want to confront, I think you can make that conscious choice. So, for example, I have one of my best friends. Love this guy to death. We've been friends, Jesus, for over 20 years now, and he is almost the complete opposite. You know, he is non-confrontational. He's not going to rock the boat. He will definitely bite his tongue. Amazing husband and amazing father. Now, I don't know exactly what it is his truth is. We haven't had the depth of conversation with him. That's just not what our relationship is. I love him to death, but we don't have that kind of connection. On the outside, speaking to him, he seems to be quite content, quite happy with happy wife, happy life. If I can give her everything she wants and give my princesses what they want, he's happy. In his world, he's happy. Now, I could judge that and say, well, are you really happy? I could say, are you really not, you want to clean that stuff up? I have no idea. But if in his world, like, for example, his mission may be to be this amazing provider, and then in that way help his wife heal through some things. I have no idea. So to me, I think it's the honesty that we have with ourselves. And I actually say that with my experience as well, because I was taking on my journey of everybody. Like, I was going back to heal my father's stuff, my mom's stuff, my grandmother's stuff, like everyone's stuff, because I am the one, which that's cool to a degree. But then I needed the savior, and I'm always looking for like these hard paths like to go on. And I recognize for me, it wasn't that productive. Like, I'm spending so much energy trying to heal everything. I wasn't enjoying life. Like, I just wasn't enjoying. And so to me, like, now there's like, I'm much more aware of, okay, cool. This 1, 2, maybe 3 things, I'm going after those. If I have time, energy, and interest to go after other things, great. But I actually do want to enjoy this thing called life. So
that's beautiful. So let's give those listening something that they can actually apply. So if someone's in a connection now, whether they're 5 years in or 5 months in, how do you frame that conversation to create a solid foundation that supports the container that you're in, that gets the two people to be able to decide what it is that they want to work on and the level of depth that they want to go to? How would you advise somebody on that?
Yeah. I mean, there's a variety of ways. One I'll speak to into that's really alive to me, that just came alive to me a couple hours ago, is to reevaluate your commitment to each other. I say to each other, but to yourself as well. And that's going to become, to me, very clear and revealing for you if you can practice radical honesty about where you are. So if you've just gotten together at the 5-month mark, or if you're in the 5-year mark, stop and just really see what you're committed, how you really are committed to show up for yourself with that person. And now I'm going to ask people to do this in a certain kind of way. So I'll use myself as an example. This became very revealing just a couple hours ago. Is if I say, Brian, I'm committed to being the best husband I can for my wife, to be supportive for her on her healing journey, to love her unconditionally, to not judge her when she's in a mood, to not need her to reciprocate my love. Like, I am committed to loving her in a way that doesn't require her to do anything extra for me. Like, that's my commitment today. If I even look back the past month and I say, well, that feels like a commitment I've been doing, that I've had since the beginning, but is that true? And for me, it's not true. It wasn't true. And it actually kind of hurt, because the fact of the matter is I was loving my wife with conditions. I wanted to love on her, and I wanted to feel her love reciprocate that. And there's been times I wanted to love on my wife, but then there's something that she wasn't doing for me, like satisfying a particular need that I had, and I felt myself withhold my love that I wanted to give because I didn't feel that she was giving the love that I wanted. And so that to me was very revealing about how I sound committed, because it's easy to say, especially as a relationship coach, I'm committed to my wife, my relationship, and myself. So just stopping for a moment and checking in with yourself and saying, well, are you really living your word? And if you're not, and this goes for men and women, not just from the man standpoint, of where is it that you're selling yourself out for yourself and then for your partner? So that's an avenue to get in there. Yeah, just do a bit of a stress check.
Yeah, I can share something else that I think should be maybe spoken about in the early stages. I think there's almost 3 phases of engagement in relationship. There's like an initial sort of compatibility phase, where over the first couple of months you get to spend time with someone and see if you're genuinely compatible. Do we like each other? Can we flow together? We get to know each other, and there's a certain set of agreements and relationship sort of ideals of stuff that we want to bring to this partnership at that early phase of the relationship. And after the first couple of months, when we're like, this feels good, I feel like I want to go on this journey, knowing what we spoke about at the beginning of this conversation, that shit's going to get messy, it's now like, okay, we're doing this thing, we're 5 months in, what are the relationship agreements and what are we going to work on in the next phase? And I think that part comes with, I want to just share that I've got this wound of not having a father or having seen my parents divorce, blah, blah, blah. These are my wounds. What are yours? And recognize and pre-frame what those are, so that we know what's going to come up and what the other person potentially going to be triggered about as you move into that deeper part of the connection. Because after a couple of months, maybe after a year, new relationship energy is starting to wear off. we're starting to move into the place where it's like life as usual. The sexual intimacy is maybe changing its rhythm a little bit. It's not 2-3 times a day anymore. It's suddenly starting to shift. Does that bring up my sense of unworthiness? Like, be able to put those out on the table and share what those are, I think creates a solid place to be able to move into the next phase of relating from there, to just really know what those are, so that you can play fair and know what the other person's likely to be triggered by, so that, you know, for example, someone with an abandonment wound or sort of an anxious attachment style, if you get into an argument, my attachment style tended to be avoidant in the past, where I'd be like, listen, I don't want this confrontation right now, I'm out of here. That's going to be the very thing that triggers my partner. And if we don't know what those things are, that can become a hard cycle to get stuck into. So I think that could also be something that could be, you know, framed in a way that could really support a connection in those early phases.
No, Gareth, 100%. And I love that framing. It gives a model to which to go through, to me, to really understand, are you both committed at the same level, right? Because what I'm hearing is, and I really, it drives me crazy when I hear, like, I see some kind of dating post and they say, well, don't be too open too soon, or, you know, don't be too eager. And it's like, be real. If you feel it, share that. The person's either going to reciprocate it or not. And so in this example, you know, I think there's going to be these situations where someone's going to have the capacity, the awareness to say, hey, I want to take this to the next level. And what you're saying takes, I'm going to say a high level awareness, but a good amount of awareness to say, like, to open up that way. The other person may not be about that life. They may say, what do you want to talk about my wounds? Like, what wounds? Traumas? I don't have traumas, you know? And the other person may get completely shut down. And so to me, that comes down to the opportunity, like the thing before, of the people who may not be ready for that, right? People may just say, like, I don't want to go there. That's not what I want to do. Like, this was so fun. You're making it serious now. But I also think the person who introduced that, to frame that, they get to stop for a second and say, huh, okay, this person's still an amazing person. They still make me laugh. I have a good time. But you know what? These things are really important to me, and I don't really want to go forward without having these conversations. So you can then say, it's been great, like, I'm going to walk away. Or you can say, you know what? These are important to me, so maybe it's not now. Let's check in a month or so. If you want to. There's a way to play this out, but I think it's interesting that these I want to say levels, but these, for lack of a better word, levels of where we are on our emotional path.
I agree, man. And I think just the fact that you put that out there and the other person receives it or they don't is an indication of where you want to be in this connection. And if the other person's like, not for me, or I don't even know what you're talking about, that is the very thing that's like, okay, maybe we don't want the same things from this, or maybe we're not ready for, or maybe we're not ready for it now, and that's okay. I love that as a frame, man.
But
and
you know
I
what?
think that's the thing. Sorry, I was just going to say, I think that's the thing about relationship. It's like, there is no rule book. There's no playbook that's like, okay, this is how it works. Copy and paste, you know, roll with it. It's like, we're fucking complicated, unique human beings with our own desires and traumas, and they're gonna play out differently depending on those connections. And I think there needs to be some flexibility. And this is where the base of this is authentic communication, just to genuinely be with what's alive and feel where the match is between you and your partner. Gareth, I'm feeling that so much, especially the last part you said, like, there's no manual to this. And then this also contributes when I tell people, the art of fucking up. There's literally no manual for these two souls that have come together for you guys to make this work. And so, like, in my program, Intentional Union, this is exactly what the program is to create the container for you too. Like, there's all kinds of books and magazines and experts. Yes, listen to them, be inspired by them, but don't be dependent on their advice or their teachings to apply to your unique relationship, right? And I find a lot of people, it takes work. It's scary to be brave, bro. Like, to be honest and to open your chest up, like, and knowing that you're not knowing, like, if the person is going to be there or not, it takes bravery to do that. So we want to go to the expert that says, we've been together for 50 years and we have an amazing marriage, great sex, great riches, great wealth. So do what we do, just follow these steps. It's like, okay, cool. Take notes, like, read it, be inspired by it, but still be willing to carve out and create your union together and be in that, and be willing to fuck it up. That when you try to do something, she may not like it, she's going to do something, she triggers you, and it's all okay, but just be willing to do it. But some people just don't want to. They want the thing. Tell me the thing to do so I never get hurt. I never have to cry. We have to have a tough argument, you know? It's like, good luck with that. Yeah, vibing with that a lot, man. Share some of the challenges that you have been through with your wife around like some of her health stuff and what that's meant for your connection, how you've danced with that as a partner, and what it's brought up for you, and how you've been able to show up or not show up intentionally sometimes where you've dropped the ball around that stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to start backwards. I'm going to start backwards a little bit, and this is actually this right around Hell Week. This came up, this awareness, this honesty, this radical honesty, and part of that radical honesty around my commitment, it was recognizing that I was carrying this energy that I needed my wife to be sick. I didn't know I was doing this consciously. It wasn't a conscious decision. I needed my wife to be sick, and I was really energetically doubting if she could do it. I was doubting when she said, like, hey, I'm going to wake up with you in the morning. We're going to do it. I'm like, I had the face of like, yeah, great. And so I was like, hey, you're not going to wake up, right? Or I'm going to start eating better again. Like, I've done these things. I've gotten off track the past couple of months. And I'm like, outwardly saying, cool, great. And the Lord's like, you're not going to do it. It's not going to last, right? And what I recognize in that is I've created, I created an identity, an attachment to being that husband, to being that man who's going to like go in with my wife and be there for her with the health issues, the hormones, the moods, everything that comes with it. So what if we haven't had sex for 3 months? I'm going to be that husband who's not going to cheat. I'm not going to go look anywhere else. I'm going to be the one to dig in. So what if we're not active like we were before? I'm going to be so understanding, so compassionate, so tuned into her needs that I want to be that guy. And there's that intention. There's nothing wrong with that intention. However, perhaps it's the shadow part of it was I became attached to that because there's other parts of my life I didn't feel a lot of value. I wasn't feeling at the top of my game. But at least I had this. At least I had this thing. And so what would happen if she then became well again? Where would my identity go? Who would I be? That shit hurt. It hurt. And at the same time, it was an honest pill to swallow about what that was like for me and how I was carrying the energy. Because I fooled myself. I convinced myself that I was doing the thing. God, I'm leaning into the fire every single time. I'm taking these beatings, but I go back to the corner, I get cleaned up, and I go back in. And I was so proud of myself for that. And I still am. As we talked about, I didn't know if this was going to be my life. When I was 16, 17, 18, dreaming about, a life that I was going to have with my future wife, or when I proposed my wife 9 years ago, I had no idea this was going to be our life, that she'd have a large tumor on her uterus that would prevent us from having kids, that would, cause a hormonal imbalance, that would, put her in states of depression, that would cause heavy menstrual cycles, that would make her not feel sexy, sensual, not feel like a woman, not want to have intercourse with me, not be intimate with me. I did not see this coming. There was no tarot card reading that said, Brian, prepare for this. Get emotionally, spiritually, physically, and energetically ready for this. There was nothing. But I was committed to making it work. So the intention behind that was there. But somewhere along the way, around the about 3-ish year journey, I became very attached to that image. Very attached to that image. And it has been challenging. It hasn't been easy at all. There's been many times I said, fuck it, I'm out. Like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't know what to do. I don't want to do it anymore. But along this path as well, it's recognizing that I can't explain it and I don't need to understand it, but I called this woman in my life. I believe I've asked for her. There's something that this woman has come into my life with this temporary health condition right now that is asking me to heal. I've learned so much about myself, about who I say I claim to be, right? Like about my groundedness. Dude, you ain't grounded. Like, go back into that fire. Let's see how grounded you are now. Oh, you're patient now? Take that. You're loving unconditionally. This is the test for that. So that journey has been very revealing to me, for me. But it's at this point now is I get to keep on coming back and just seeing what else is there to claim, to be honest with myself. Where I can continue to grow, where I continue to learn myself, and where I can continue to love her unconditionally. And the last thing I'll say about that is, and I planted the seed a little bit, is the truth is sometimes the struggle I have with loving her unconditionally or without conditions is because that's part of me. It's a deep wound that I still don't have for myself. I still struggle to love myself unconditionally in these phases, in these ebbs and flows of life. Like, I'm very critical of myself. I'm at the, I don't know what to the ebb or flow, but the down. If I'm feeling down, I can easily get critical. And that shows up in how my wife moves through it. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah, I don't know, it feels like a really, yeah, it feels like a strong conversation to have with you, because I feel like I'm in a similar place with my connection at the moment. Yeah, just a similar thing. Like, my partner's bumping up against some perimenopausal stuff, which is playing an out-and-out connection. And the way you spoke there around like not feeling sexy, about not feeling adventurous, just not wanting to be what I fucking signed up for, is just not there. And I'm like, I'm deeply committed to this. And yeah, I find my work is really holding the polarity of being there as a supportive partner, recognizing that she's having her own experience and that I'm there for her, and not rescuing her, like not trying to fucking be around her and like show up and, you know, continually, because that puts her into victim, and it creates like this awkward cycle of like parent child slash, you know, rescuer victim, and it's not healthy. But it brings back this part of me, the young version of me, the polite version of me, that wants everybody to be okay all the time. And when she's not okay, it's not mine, you know, and in some ways it is mine, because I've committed to being here. And so, yeah, I think we're sharing something quite similar there, and I'm dancing with it at the moment. And yeah, what it looks like is less intimacy. It looks like less fucking do. It's a lot more like, fuck, I don't want to get out of bed today, and I'm sick again, and I'm feeling depressed, and we went on this trip, and like all the things that we planned, a lot of it was like, I don't feel like going out the house today. And I'm like wanting to, part of me is like, fucking strap it on, soldier, we're here, let's go. And the other part is like, fuck you, I'm going anyway. And it's like, I've got to try and hold these parts of myself. My ring is just lighting up every time I feel it. Yeah, and yeah, I've got to hold myself first and make sure that I'm solid before I can, yeah, really show up with genuine authenticity. What I hadn't looked at, and I don't know if I have it, I'm going to need to sit and meditate on this, is the attachment to the identity of being the person that's supporting this other being that you've spoken to, you know? And so I think my question is really, if not that, then what? What do you reframe that to? Like, you've identified it, so what do you replace it with, or how do you hold that part of yourself?
Yeah. So this is all still fresh and new, so I'm not going to pretend like I have a prepared answer. I don't. But what feels true for me right now is coming back to the recommitment of who I'm committed to being. And that's helping me a lot. Very, very new right now, because when I think about before, all the things like my needs, you know, my excitement, you know, it's like, yes, I'm here for this, and like I'm putting myself on the back burner. I've been doing this, and this is what was causing a lot of resentment in me in this process. Is in this role that I put myself as a superhero. I made myself, yes, I'm the hero, she's the victim. That every time I wanted to step into something, I kept putting my needs and my emotions to one side for her. But I wasn't really doing that with all the purity that I thought I was. Like, I was building up resentment behind the scenes. Like, I was crying out inside, right? And so, in a very similar space of what I'm feeling from you is, how do I keep my needs intact while at the same time still want to take a stand for her? I don't have a clear answer for that right now. But coming back to the committing to the man that I want to be for her, whatever state she's in, is helping me. Because if I'm also being honest with myself, going back to these past months and even years, I have been really secretly wanting to create a new intimacy practice for us, but really for me. If I'm being honest with myself, yes, I see the benefit that I will both benefit from reimagining our intimacy. But if I'm being honest, like, I really wanted to create that space because I am really missing intimacy. And she shared she is as well, right? But it's what I want. I have expressed that I would like to have some quality time to do certain things so we can share more openly. So we can, understand where we are. Where's your process? How can I best support you?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because that communication makes me feel safe. I see the benefit for both of us, but it makes me feel safe. And so again, when I'm being honest and I stop and I say, well, Brian, how much? I mean, be really honest, it's just radical honesty. How much have you really been thinking about her? Like, really, her journey, what it's like to be in her body, her experience. She's trying to be the best damn wife she can be for you. She didn't sign up for this. This isn't her fault. She didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I want to have a tumor now, and this is it. Like, that was not her plan.
Mm-hmm.
She's also trying to figure this thing out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm being honest with myself, I don't really have an answer. So that lets me know not enough for me. I don't need anyone else to tell me. I don't need anyone else's assessment. For me, about how it is I want to be in union, I haven't considered enough really about what her experience is without putting mine in the mix as well. Okay, I think we're back now. All right, cool. Without putting mine in the mix as well. And so again, it doesn't necessarily mean that I need to forget about myself, because when I'm saying, how am I committed to showing up for her? Right now, it's not, oh, her needs are more important than mine. It's okay, cool. I really do trust. I trust that getting myself back in the line in this masculine energy, this protection, this truth, that if I go into and I approach her with more unconditional love, unconditional love, what's going on?
I'm back.
What's going on?
That was me.
Might be me.
I'm back.
All right.
I'm back.
I'm also on a small island, so let me try to get closer to the window. So when I come back to being honest about, was I really being there for her as unconditionally as I can? Not because I want to love on her because she wants to give me back. It's very few. So right now I'm in this remembering, right? This rebuilding stage for me. Bring myself back, because over time I would be taking these emotional and energetic beatings that I got distracted. Although I'm proud of how I showed up, I got distracted. So it's coming back together and saying, okay, right, this is the new commitment. This is the new vision for yourself, and then trusting how it's going to show up for her. And so that's the best I got right now.
Yeah. I'm laughing because there's so much stuff that you're saying that I think is resonating with me, and I think what landed there was the same thing. I'm like continually recognizing how I'm being in this situation and how I'm being with regards to her, but I don't take the time to put myself in her shoes and feel like, I mean, obviously from time to time I do, but I think that's really the edge, is to be there and be like, how fucked up would this feel if I was the one going through some stuff where at a deep level, I know that she wants intimacy. I know she wants to be well. I know she wants to feel good in her body and be the exciting blah, blah, blah that we both signed up for. Yeah. And this is where we are. And so, at some level, like, I'm committed to doing it and I'm committed to showing up for that. But at some level, I don't know that I always necessarily spend enough time maybe contemplating it from her point of view about exactly how she's feeling with regards to the heaviness around this and how it's showing up in our connection and shaping our experience. So there's just,
I'll tell you this as well, Garrett, for me, like, and for me, and I want to speak this out too, this is like on behalf of men in general, especially for the men who are really committed to doing this, it's also remind myself to give myself a break, to not be so hard on myself. Because I also feel that part of when I get in these moments when, like I say, well, damn, Brian, you should have known better. You should have been able to see through, her mood. You should have been able to love on her harder. You should have been able to, again, I could have done 1,000 things different or better. Mm-hmm. But again, going back to Brian, okay, look, the art of fucking this other relationship and fucking my life up, right? Like it's in the sense of not intention, just like based on my expectations. If I was at this level of enlightenment and awareness, I really would be okay with everything that's happening. but I'm attaching these outcomes that I want to see. I'm attaching my identity to how I'm showing up as this guy, this mentor, this coach, this husband. I'm putting so much weight on how I should show up, as opposed to just doing the best job that I can and trusting that the path will reveal itself to me. That I make it harder on myself. So it's like, Brian, stop for a second, stop for a second, stop for a second, stop for a second. There's no manual to do you. Forget the manual for this marriage. There's no manual to do this life. If you had asked me 13 years ago, I've been in Europe for 13 years, in Spain for 11, if I would be here 13 years ago, would I be here right now? Of course not. I would be back in Orlando, Florida with my community, doing business. I'd be like a CEO of some company making millions right now. That would be my answer 13 years ago. There's no way I would have predicted this at all. Yet here I am. And would I go back to that? Would I change my decision? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So at least trusting, like, say, if I have that same trust and awareness that I would have 13 years ago, can I stop and put a new stake in the ground for myself and say, Brian, trust the process. Trust your process. You're not going to always show up as this great integrated guy as much as I'd love to. And if you don't, that's okay. Take ownership of it and then recommit yourself to it and then go. And then job done. Apart from that, there's nothing more I think I can do. I can stress myself out like I have been doing. I can't take all this burden and all this like lashing to myself because I'm not doing it great enough. You know, it's like I could, but I've done that most of my life. It just hasn't been effective, you know? So just for all the men out there, again, watching live or watching the replay, grace for yourself. And I know we're not good at that. I'll speak for me for sure. I'm definitely not good at that, but grace for yourself. Like, stop and recognize the badass job you are doing. Like, seriously, like, recognize that you are stepping in. Recognize that there's no manual for this, that this is the best job that you are doing. May not be perfect, but are you committed to it? Like, really, like, big yourself up sometimes, because oftentimes I feel like, oh, I'd like to big me up sometimes, you know? And that's nice. But what if she's not in the mood to do it? Do I then succumb to like feeling like a, you know, like a little pissy ant? Or do I say, I don't need her to be great to hear it from her, but I actually don't need it as well, because I can sit back and reflect myself and do a damn good job.
Yeah, I resonate with that, and I feel the same with some of the men that I work with. You know, we can be really hard on ourselves, and I don't know whether it's like a collective agreement or something that was modeled or perhaps something in society, but we have the sense of like we need to be always doing better, you know, whether it's in our marriages or in our businesses or whatever. There's this continual drive to just fucking improve, you know, and I notice it in my own behavior, you know, in my connection. Can I be better? You know, can I listen to more podcasts? Can I ram another, you know, bit of knowledge inside my head to continually grow? And yes, it's amazing, and it can be exhausting. And yeah, and when you're exhausted, you can't show up fully for the things that genuinely are important. So resonating with that so much, bro.
Yeah. It's just a quick question I have for you, because the last part you just said right there, because I've also shared that, and I find myself like stop listening to so many podcasts and ebooks all the time. So for you, because actually I do remember now going, because you guys have this amazing project in Guatemala. I remember now watching videos of that being built. So kudos to you for bringing that vision into it. It's coming back to me now. So as you create this beautiful space, and I remember it's from the vision, the intention that your partner has, you and your partner have for the space. What are some of your practices now of like your self-love practices, self-acceptance practices, trusting that you're perfect the way you are right now, that prepares you to bring that same gift, magic, and medicine to the men you help as well? Like, what does that look like?
I think at the basis of it is what we've discussed earlier on in this conversation, which is, for me, I think the only work for me to do is self-love. And I think that's the same for all of us, you know, because anywhere where we move into partnership or project or anything without complete love and acceptance of self, there's always like a projection into the other that you need to show up somehow differently because I'm not okay with being me. And so the self-love practice for me is really it. It's like, I think that's all of our work to do. Recognize that we live in a world that, through conditioning, programming, imperfect parents, expectations, we have wounds, and those are our work to carry. Some of us have got huge wounds, but I don't believe that we're given more than we can handle. And so I think the self-love practice is really it. My regiment is really like something I call the first 4%, which is really the power hour that I dedicate to myself based on this concept of me, we, and thee. meaning like three concentric circles going out, and recognizing that at the beginning and the center of this is me, and that if I'm not stable, the idea that we, the next circle out from me, which is family and partnership, if I'm not fully solid there, I can't show up fully for the family or my partner or my direct community. And then the is the greater experience, you know, the whole, the work that we're putting out into the world. And again, you know, I see this, and I think I do it myself sometimes when I'm not my best version of myself. We're wounded, but we're going out to go and save the world. And it often looks messy, and it's like, you know, continually rescuing and pointing fingers at everything that's bad. And it's like, when we isn't stable, you can't go into when me isn't stable, you can't go into the we or the thee. And so the first 4% for me is a combination of things like breath work, cold plunge, moving my body, meditation, a self intimacy practice, a self pleasuring practice where I am cultivating and activating my sexual life force with myself, even though I'm in partnership, which brings me to be the perfect lover that I want to be with myself. Because again, if I'm not desperately in love and self-activating in my own practice, I move into and I outsource my pleasure to my partner. And then a lot of men that I work with do this. It's like, my wife's not giving me love. Okay, how's your self-love practice? What do you mean? Like, we're not even taught this stuff, but the idea that I can come self-activated to my partnership, at the basis of that is recognizing that it's not my lover or my wife's partner responsibility to bring intimacy to me. I need to show up there completely self-activated, and it's her responsibility to do the same, because then you come from a place of being completely full. And so those are some of the practices that I cultivate. And at the basis of that is really just falling deeply fucking in love with yourself, including the parts of yourself that are messy, where you didn't show up fully, where you've dropped the ball, where you didn't get the deal, like all that stuff. And so, I think it all starts with that. And in some ways, I've also noticed, I think everything has this like superpower, and then it sometimes gets to a place where it becomes a shadow. And so I think for me, there's a part of me which is like, part of it as well is recognizing that, you know, sometimes I'm not going to fucking do my morning routine because I just don't feel like it, you know? And there's my drill sergeant, the part of me that's like, do it. This is what makes you the being that you can be, da, da, da. But it can be fucking exhausting. And it's like, today I'm going to take a break. I'm just not going to do that. Or I'm going to go for a walk instead of lifting heavy weights, because that's what my body feels like. And so that's also an act of self-love, the recognition that it's not always like driving and continually pushing. It's a life of polarities. You know, you have these two parts that are continually there, and you've just got to dance through the middle way of recognizing that it's both the hard commitment and it's also the soft comfort of holding and loving yourself in.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm digging that so much. I'm actually going to use that. I love the the simplicity of the me, we, and thee. It resonates a lot with, again, a similar path like my wife and I. You know, we both know, or we believe, that the fact that the universe stopped us from having kids or never gifted us kids was for one of that reasons, to allow us to serve on a different kind of level, right? Because we're both into this kind of work, and the fact of the matter is not having little kids to take care of, our own kids, does free us up to do more, to give more, to be more energetically available to the people in there, right? So what I'm curious for you, and I'm thinking about, because I've seen the movie of the making of who you guys are, and I'm hearing the little bit of struggle that for you, you know, in this, the support of being with your partner at this phase, something about your circles now. And I guess it is a bit of a challenge, like going back to, and it's all to make one big circle of like the art of fucking relationship and not having a guidebook. And so where you two are at right now, like in the we, to then go out there and to serve the thee, if you would, just share more about that, and still be, because to me, I still see the beauty in, it may not be firing exactly how you have it envisioned right now, but I still see so much power of moving through it. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I think some people may hear this like, oh, so until the we is like solid, then we cannot do these things. That almost sounds like perfectionism to me, right? And I don't want to project my interpretation of that on you. So I'm just curious, like, how you see your guys' self in this we phase right now, and then still being able to go out and serve the thee. And yeah, I'm just curious about that.
Thank you. That's a beautiful question. I think there's always work to be done. I think, you know, there's a continual improvement of me on an ongoing basis, as there is a continual evolution and development of the of the we, which is maybe in partnership, but we could be also for a single human being. The we that exists for that human might be your company or your family or something else around that. And so I think, yeah, if your home life is draining power, it's very difficult to go and serve your mission out into the world, because there's just continually leaking energy in the we part before you move into the we. And so, yeah, what it is that we want to bring to the world. My partner has been serving her mission prior to us even meeting in transformational retreats through an organization called ISTA, the International School of Temple Art. And our journey together feels like serving and showing up and supporting couples in their journey. And we're playing with the idea of what that could look like, maybe some in-person stuff. We're going to do some online stuff. And yeah, it's an ongoing process, but recognizing that if it's I fall down, you always fall to a lower level. So if at any point I'm out there trying to save the world, but I'm not able to hold myself, I've got to go back to my first 4%, which is that power hour that gets me solid so that I can show up fully with my partner, to be able to show up fully to serve my mission. But it's definitely not perfect, but it is recognizing that it's like building blocks that allow you to get there. And without a strong foundation that starts with me, it's difficult to do.
Yeah. I just want to, if you mind if I just pour into you, just give you some water?
Yeah.
All right. Just, where are you from originally?
Johannesburg, South Africa.
Okay, sweet. I'm just thinking about, again, the parallels of both of us leaving our homeland, starting a new life in Latin American countries, Spanish-speaking countries. And I just want you to know that I see the work and the effort, and I find it very inspiring. So I don't see a lack, although your inner dialogue may be different. There's truth in a solid home life of being able to go out there and serve. But you being open to share that part of your journey, like even with someone like me on the outside, it's inspiring to me, So if anything I can say you didn't ask for is, again, to be graceful with yourself, because hearing the process and hear your struggle and your cadence about how you're moving through it, it fills me up, man. Like, I don't feel so alone, because sometimes, I don't know how you feel, sometimes it feels like a lonely path I'm on. Like, it's only just me. Like, why am I doing this? Like, and why am I doing this? What's the point? So just thank you for continuing to lean in. Thank you for being open. Thank you for still manifesting your dreams, with everything going on, and still not losing, and just thank you for sharing that with me and the world, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. And I've gleaned so much from this conversation. And I think, when you reached out to me, I had been calling in invitations for co-creation with people. My human design is as a projector, and I'm best when somebody reaches out to me. So when I received your message, I was like, this feels good. And the hour that we've been jamming here feels powerful and vulnerable, and it's like what I came to do, for sure. And my podcast, the Call to Courage podcast that this will go on to, is really the recognition that the original definition of courage is to speak from the heart. And I think a lot of men in their heads by thinking mental concepts. Sex, this is true for me, just driven by my eros and my desire for intimacy. But really the union of these two is in the heart. And I think the ability to be able to speak from the heart is a courageous act. And brother, I feel that in what I've seen in your work and how you're showing up in the world. And I just want to honor the journey that you're on. And I think, I've gleaned so much just from this conversation and what I've seen you doing. And honoring you too, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, really receiving it. It's easy for me to say receive it, but then let it go real deep. So I'm going to really let that sink in.
In wrapping up, I'd love you to just share what you're working on at the moment and where people can get hold of you. Anything that's alive for you right now that you're creating, either in the relationship space or in the men's workspace, feel free to riff a little bit on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's coming at a perfect time. I was just speaking to a coach of mine to help me organize all these ideas I have. And so the flagship program that I have for couples is called Intentional Union. One is a one-on-one container for couples that starts at 6 months. And essentially the process is in the name. It's really union with intention. So whether you identify with marriage or partner, it's building it from the ground up. It's being able to recognize some of the we have, the challenges that we have, the fears we have, our dreams, our passions, our desires, and building a container for each those needs that they're calling in. Also, the spinoff of that is a group container program that's actually launching in the next month. It's 3 months long. It's based on the same principle, but then allowing couples to create with each other, because also, as I share right now, sometimes I think in partnership we can feel lonely, like we're the only ones going through this experience, you know. And so creating a safe container we can learn from each other, be inspired by each other, hear my wife's voice coming from another woman's mouth may allow to unlock something in me that I haven't been hearing because I filtered it out, right?
Yeah.
And then the previous, and sort of the other part that comes into that is there's a track for women called Awaken the Goddess, and there's a track for men called Man Unshakable. And these two also are preparing both men and women to really get to their truth, their authenticity, to understand their wholeness, their completeness, getting into partnership. Right. And so the whole idea is to come back to recognize like where we are, to love ourselves, to completely accept ourselves, to accept that we're going to fuck it up based on our own expectations. Whole, complete, worthy of love, worthy of bliss, and all of it. And so, for any questions you have about any of those, find me out here on Instagram. Drop me a DM. Find my email. Shoot me an email. I'll be happy to see how those programs could support you on your journey.
Amazing, brother. And yeah, for me, I've got a similar container starting specifically for men that are wanting to be in partnership. It's called From Solo to Soulmates. And yeah, the details for that are actually starting on something that I've created called the Soulmate Safari, which is a free masterclass that's basically how to navigate the dating desert and attract your ideal mate. And I just launched it yesterday, so I'll include that in the show notes as well. And yeah, yes. I'm probably going to want to have another conversation at some point. I feel the topics that we touched here are deep, and there's a lot more we can expand into. And I just want to say thanks again for reaching out. It's been an honor spending time with you, brother.
Yeah, likewise. And just before we wrap up, I want to put this last intention out there because I heard you and your partner calling in-person events. And I'm actually working with a buddy of mine in Belize about doing a couples retreat sometime in the new year around January. Not too far-ish from Guatemala, so maybe we can do a double-up trip. Let's just put that seed out there. End of January, beginning of February. You know,
amazing.
No pressure.
Yeah, man. And yeah, I'm very keen to co-create. I feel a resonance with your journey, and yeah, I'm receiving that.
Yeah. Adios. Nos vemos.
Nos vemos, amigo. Mucho gusto. Much love, brother.
Ciao.
Ciao.